AITA for not going back to my wife after she threatened to call the cops on me? Okay, so I feel like my whole world just got flipped upside down and I'm honestly lost. My wife, let's call her Sarah, and I have been married for 4 years now, and up until a few months ago, I thought we had the perfect life together. We were that couple that everyone envied. You know, never argued, always laughing, loving, and just good together. At least, that's how I saw it. Then we had our daughter 6 months ago, and I could already feel that something had shifted the moment Sarah came back from the hospital. I remember thinking it was probably the exhaustion, maybe hormones. I mean, childbirth is a massive thing for anyone to go through, right? But the changes, they didn't go away. In fact, they got worse. The Sarah I knew, the loving, caring, calm woman I married, was suddenly replaced by someone who seemed to hate the sight of me. Her mood swung wildly from one extreme to another. Every little thing I did seemed to irritate her. Even something as small as making breakfast would set her off. She started snapping at me constantly. And the worst part was that the anger wasn't just in her words, it was in her eyes, her body language. She radiated this energy that made me feel like I wasn't welcome in my own home. Now, I'm not the kind of person who likes confrontation. If there's tension, I'm usually the one to defuse it or let it slide. I thought if I just gave her space, if I just waited it out, she'd come around. But things didn't get better. They got worse. I'd come home from work, and she wouldn't even acknowledge me. I'd offer to help with the baby, to give her a break, but she would either refuse or look at me like I was the enemy. I could feel the distance between us growing every day, and it was breaking me. But I stayed quiet. I thought maybe she was dealing with something deeper that she wasn't ready to talk about, and I wanted to give her time. Then, 2 days ago, it all exploded. We got into a huge fight, a screaming match like we've never had before. I can't even remember what started it, but I do remember the anger in her voice. She was yelling at me, accusing me of not doing enough, of not being there for her. And I snapped. I've been holding it all in for so long, trying to be patient. But in that moment, I couldn't hold back anymore. I yelled back, something I never do. The argument escalated so fast, I barely knew what was happening. And that's when she said it. "I'll call the cops on you." I was stunned. I just stood there, my mouth hanging open, trying to process what she had just said. The woman I loved, the mother of my child, had just threatened to call the cops on me, her husband. And the worst part, I hadn't even touched her. I wasn't being violent, I wasn't out of control. We were just yelling. But she stood there, looking at me with this cold, calculated expression, like she meant every word of it. She was serious. My heart just dropped. I couldn't believe what was happening. I couldn't believe that this was my life now. After everything we'd been through, how do we end up here? She stormed off to another room, still fuming, and I was left standing in the living room, completely shell-shocked. I knew, in that moment, that I couldn't stay. I grabbed whatever clothes I could find, shoved them into a bag, and left. I didn't even say goodbye. I just left. My mind was racing. All I could think about was how quickly my life had unraveled, how the woman I loved had just threatened to have me arrested. I didn't know what to do or where to go, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't go back. Since then, I've been staying at my friend's place. He's been great, really supportive, but I can tell he's worried about me. He keeps saying that I'm not acting like myself, and honestly, I don't feel like myself. I feel like a shadow of who I was. I'm lost, broken, and I don't know how to fix this. My mother-in-law came by earlier today. She brought my daughter, and God, it took everything in me not to break down when I saw her. But I didn't hold her. I couldn't, because I knew if I did, I want to go back. And I can't do that. Not after what Sarah said. Maya will try to talk to me, saying that Sarah didn't mean what she said, that she was just upset and angry, and that I should come back and talk things out. But how am I supposed to go back after that? How am I supposed to sit down and have a conversation with someone who threatened to call the cops on me? I've been thinking about everything, about whether I'm overreacting, whether I'm being unfair, whether I'm the one to blame. I mean, I know things haven't been easy since the baby was born, and I'm sure I've made mistakes. But is it really too much to ask for some understanding, some patience? Instead, I get threats. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to go back, to try and work things out for the sake of our daughter. But the other part of me feels like something is fundamentally broken in our relationship, and I don't know if it can be fixed. Can you ever really come back from something like that? Am I the asshole for not going back? Am I overreacting? Or is this a line that can't be uncrossed?